I never believed in anything beyond what I could see, touch, or prove, but that night in Berlin in the autumn of 2012 shredded the comfort of logic I had built my life on. My boyfriend Lucas and I had planned the trip as a quick escape from routine. Cheap flights from Brussels, a rented flat in Friedrichshain, and long nights drifting through the city. Berlin, at that time, was a city in transition. The graffiti-painted walls of abandoned factories standing beside neon-lit clubs, the endless construction cranes reshaping streets, and the hum of trams echoing through the night. It began on the very first night. The flat we rented was a converted loft on Boxhagener Strasse, a building that had once been an old sewing factory before investors stripped its soul and carved it into cheap rentals for tourists. The stairwell smelled faintly of mildew, and the elevator was perpetually broken, leaving us to climb up 4 flights with our bags. The flat itself looked fine in photographs. Whitewashed walls, minimal IKEA furniture, a huge window overlooking the street. But in person, there was something about it that felt hollow, unfinished, like a place that wasn't meant to be lived in. I unpacked quickly. Lucas went out to buy beer from a spatty, and I decided to take a shower. The bathroom light flickered as I closed the door, not in a broken bulb kind of way, but in sharp, stuttering bursts like someone was deliberately toggling the switch. The sound of water filled the room, but underneath it I could hear something else, a low, rhythmic thumping. It wasn't the pipes, it was too irregular. I turned the water off. The thumping didn't stop. I pressed my ear against the tiled wall and realized it was coming from the other side, the bedroom. When I stepped out, dripping and uneasy, Lucas had just come back. He tossed 2 bottles of Berliner Pilsner on the table and froze mid-step. I followed his gaze. The bedroom door was wide open. We had left it closed. The window inside was open too, curtains shivering, though there was no wind outside. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Both of us knew neither of us had opened that window. From that point forward, the trip was no longer a holiday. The second night was worse. We had spent the day walking across the city, from Alexanderplatz to Museum Island, through streets buzzing with tourists and students on bicycles, but the unease never left me. I kept catching Lucas staring over his shoulder, kept feeling that someone was following us. By the time we returned to the flat, the sky was a dull grey, and the street lamps had flickered on. We were exhausted, but the apartment refused to let us rest. From the moment we stepped inside, the temperature felt wrong, warmer than outside but dense, suffocating, like breathing through damp cloth. The air smelled faintly metallic, like rust or blood. That night, I woke up with my chest tight, like someone was sitting on me. My eyes snapped open, and for a split second, I saw something crouched at the foot of the bed. Not a shadow, not a trick of the dark. It was darker than the room itself, a density of black shaped like a man, though its limbs bent wrong. Too long, too angular. The head tilted, jerky, like a predator deciding when to pounce. My body refused to move. My lungs dragged in air that never filled them. I wanted to scream Lucas's name, but my voice had been stolen. Then, in one violent second, the thing lunged forward and vanished. I shot up, gasping, finally able to breathe. Lucas was already awake, sweat dripping down his forehead, staring at the same corner where the figure had been. He didn't need to tell me he had seen it too. From then on, it didn't matter where we went in the city. The presence followed us. On the U-Bahn, in the echoing tunnels, I'd feel it behind me, brushing the back of my neck. In crowded bars on Oranienstrasse, I'd catch glimpses of it reflected in mirrors, standing just out of reach. At night, it returned to the flat with us, stronger each time, feeding on the fear it planted. The third night was when it stopped hiding. We had been sitting at the small table by the window, eating cheap kebabs and drinking. Both of us were strung out from lack of sleep, nerves fried. That's when the sound started, nails dragging along the walls, slow and deliberate, circling the room. The plaster vibrated with the noise, like claws raking against concrete. Lucas slammed his beer down, the glass shattering across the floor, but neither of us moved. The sound wasn't outside. It was inside the walls of the flat. The ceiling light blinked violently, plunging the room in strobe-like flashes. Between the bursts of light and shadow, I saw it again, standing directly beside Lucas, hand stretched toward him. Its fingers were impossibly long, curling at the ends like hooks. Lucas flinched violently, his chair toppling, and I scrambled backward, knocking into the radiator. The figure dissolved into the dark again, but the air stayed thick with it, charged and hostile. We didn't sleep. We couldn't. We sat on the floor until sunrise, listening to every creak of the building, every groan of the pipes, waiting for the next strike. On the fourth day, Lucas wanted to leave. But where would we go? We had already paid for the flat. Our return flight wasn't until the end of the week, and our budget was tight. More than that, some part of me knew it wouldn't matter. The thing wasn't bound to that flat. It had attached itself to us. That night was pure terror. I woke at 3:12 a.m. The time burned into my mind because the alarm clock beside the bed had frozen there, its digits flickering. The room was utterly dark, the kind of darkness that swallows everything. And then came the sound. Breathing, not mine, not Lucas's. Deep, guttural inhalations, dragging through the room. It shifted closer, rasping like something huge pressing its face against my ear. I could feel the air moving with each inhale, hot and rancid. The sheets pulled tight across my body. Not like they had slipped or tangled, like someone was yanking them downward. I fought against it, thrashing, but my body felt pinned, my arms locked against the mattress. Lucas groaned beside me, twisting violently, his breath jagged like he was drowning. I caught a glimpse of his face in the faint light from the street lamp outside. His lips pale, his chest straining, like something was crushing it. Then came the whisper. Not in words I understood, not in any language I recognized, but guttural animal sounds that scraped directly into my brain. It wasn't a hallucination. Lucas heard it too. His eyes snapped open wide and I saw the exact same terror reflected there. And then it stopped. Everything stopped. The air went still. The sheets fell slack. The breathing vanished. I stumbled out of the bed, switched the light on, but it barely flickered to life. Lucas sat up, trembling, his shirt clinging with sweat. Neither of us spoke. We just sat in that weak light, staring at the walls, waiting for it to return. It never did, not in that flat. But the thing about experiences like that is they don't end when you leave. Even back home in Brussels, weeks later, I'd catch shadows bending wrong in the corners of rooms. Lucas admitted he still woke up at night with pressure on his chest. Whatever it was in Berlin, it hadn't let us go. And maybe it never will.